Hello, I am Saeed Muhammad Hadi Nakfi, and this is my final assignment for construction technology. This assignment is about how we carried out with building our summative project in class and describing the process in which everything was carried out. This assignment has four main divisions. The first one's planning, then it's framing, then it's plumbing, and finally electrical. We started off the project with planning. In this division, we first learned or reviewed how to measure. Then we moved on to learning about the different terminologies associated with the construction of the project. For example, top plate, bottom plate, stud, end stud, etc. Blueprints were the next step of the operation. We sketched out a not-to-scale drawing with measurements and used it as a reference when constructing our project. We began our project with first obtaining long planks of wood from the shed, measuring them, putting them together, and finally screwing them onto the platform. First, we measured and cut out our 4-foot bottom plate with the sawzall using 2 sawhorses. Then we hammered in our measured and cut studs by laying the top plate so that it is perpendicular to the floor and pushing the studs against the top plate as our classmates drove nails into both the top plate and the studs. After all our studs were annealed to the top plate, we started working on our bottom plate. We learned that if we drive the nails into the plate before we hammer them into the studs, it saves us a lot of time and effort. So after we used this technique, we made the wall stand and hammered the nails in all the way. We then screwed our walls into the platform. We repeated this process 2 more times with both walls being 44.5 inches in length and 62.75 inches apart. This was our short wall section done. After all of the groups finished installing their walls, floor joists were added on top of the newly installed walls. We measured the spacing between them to be 16 inches on center, just like the studs. A floor panel was then installed on top of the floor joists. To secure the floor panel to the floor joists, we used a chalk line on the floor panel to mark where to hammer in our nails. Finally, we began working on our large wall. We built our large wall using the same methods that helped us build our short walls, except this time we installed it on the floor panel instead of the platform. The next division of building our house was to add a plumbing system. We first made a frame for our sink and used 2 metal support beams to help with the weight. We used 1/2-inch PEX pipes for our supply and 1.5 ABS pipes for our drainage system. Due to the fact that pipes are run through the wall, we had to first cut out circular spaces into the studs for our pipes to run through. Underneath our floor panel, we made 2 series of holes, one for hot water and one for cold water. Above our floor panel, we made 1 series of holes for our drainage system or vent system. The red hot pipe ran 13 inches below the floor panel and the blue cold water pipe ran 17 inches below the floor panel. Since our section of the project was in the middle, we used a T-shaped fitting on both the hot and the cold pipes to distribute the water to the next group as well as to our sink. To connect the pipes with any fitting, first make a cut in the PEX pipes using the PEX cutter. Make sure that the cut you make on the pipe is straight first. Then put a ring on the pipe and make sure that 1/8 of the pipe extends outwards beyond the ring. Now attach the fitting to the pipe and crimp the ring around the pipe and fitting using a crimper. Both of our water supply lines ran upward through holes we made in the top plate of our short wall, the floor panel, and the bottom plate of our large wall. Then rose 21 inches before being attached to neighboring studs using a plastic clip and nail. We used an elbow fitting to extend the pipes forward a few inches before using braided steel pipes to attach them to our sink. For the drain, we first made a series of holes 57 inches higher than the floor panel. The pipe that ran through here would act as the vent. Then we made a hole through the floor panel. The pipe that ran through here would act as the drain. We then ran pipe through the vent holes in the studs, using a T-shaped fitting to allow the flow of air to the next group, as well as allowing distribution to our drainage system as well. We then attached a PO plug to our sink and a P-trap right under our PO plug, which then continued into yet another T-shaped fitting which connected the vent and the sink into the drainage. The drainage ran through the hole in the floor panel and rested on top of a T-shaped wooden block. The drainage was arranged so that it was sloping downwards to let gravity pull the water down slowly. The final division to building our project was electrical. For this division we installed a sideways platform for our fan, an electrical box 16 inches on center from the platform, 2 more electrical boxes side by side 4 feet on center from the floor panel, and a light box on the bottom of our top stud. Every box in this division extended half an inch outward. To attach an electrical box to a stud, use a screw and insert it diagonally through the holes at the top of the box and the bottom of the box. To attach a light box to the top stud, simply use screws through the screw holes. To attach the fan to the sideways platform, use screws through the wood, then mount the fan onto the screws. We began by first mounting all the electrical boxes and fan, then we ran cable through every box. After we laid some cable across the boxes, we pulled a hand's length worth of cable into the boxes, stripped the sheathing off, and then stripped a 1/4 inch off the insulation from the wire. The electrical box on the bottom served as a plug. It had 2 cables running through it, one coming from the top and one from the bottom. The plug appliance had 2 power terminals and 2 neutral terminals, with 1 ground terminal for safety. Loop the power wire coming from the bottom cable and attach it snugly to the power terminal. Do the same for the other power terminal. Then loop the neutral wire and also attach it snugly to the neutral terminal. Do the same for the other neutral terminal. Next, grab 2 bare wires and loop one of them around the ground screw on the plug, and the other one around the ground screw on the box. Finally, marret all of the bare wire from the screws and cables together. The light box should have 1 cable running through it. First, loop the power and neutral wires and attach them to the corresponding terminals. Then loop and attach the ground wire to the ground screw. After the fan was mounted, the steps we took to connect it to the circuit were: first, twist the stranded wire of the fan to make it more solid. Then twist the fan's wires around the circuit's wires with as much contact as possible. Then put a marret on top of the connection so that it is secure. The 2 electrical boxes above the platform should have 4 cables running through them. 1 cable connects the boxes together, so the electrical box on the inside has 3 cables running through it, and the one on the outside has 2. To wire the electrical boxes above the platform, first have a spare power wire, ground wire, and neutral wire ready for switch 1. And for switch 2 have an extra ground wire ready. To wire switch 1, which is on the inside, loop and attach the power and neutral wires that come from the load to the appropriate terminals on the switch. Then strip the insulation from both ends of the spare power and neutral wire and mirror one end of both wires while looping the other. The looped end connects to the appropriate terminal on the switch, and the other end gets connected to the other power and neutral wires via a mirror. Then loop one end of the spare ground wire and attach it to the ground screw, while connecting the other end to all the other spare ground wires. To wire electrical box 2, simply connect the power wires to the power terminals and the neutral wires to the neutral terminals. Then mirror all the ground wires together using the spare one. Then loop the other end of the spare one and attach it to the ground screw. After everything had been tried and tested, we began the demolition of our project. The demo was not destructive and we took everything off piece by piece. We began by first undoing all the electrical components. We first unscrewed all the terminals, then undid the mirrors, then removed the cables, and finally unscrewed the electrical boxes. Next we began deconstructing the pipes. We detached all the ABS pipes and fittings, but had to unfortunately cut the PEX pipes using a PEX cutter. We got the fittings out using a ring buster, which gently broke the rings holding the pipes and fittings together. Finally, we started taking apart the frame of the project. We began by unscrewing the walls from the floor panel, then prying apart the top plate, then prying apart the studs, and finally removing all the nails from both the top and bottom plate. We repeated this process for all our walls after we unscrewed the floor panel and floor joists.